I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Vinland Saga, Season 1, Episode 13. Last episode we met a character named Gratianus.
This is a great name.
It is a great name. He, actually, sidebar, my dad told me that he almost named me Annunzio Mento. And, like, that was going to be my name for a while.
He says it pretty often. Yeah. He tells you this story pretty often.
I don't know why Gratianus. I don't know. Both of them have this,
they have this, like, power and weight to them.
Yeah. Okay, coming back from that sidebar, you know, Gratianus was an interesting character. I didn't think that we would meet a character like that in the way that we did through Askeladd, and it makes me so much more excited for the character of Askeladd and the depth to him and his connections to Wales.
How many other places and people.
Yeah, I don't really know what to expect from this episode other than Thorfinn trying his best to protect and defend Canute. I loved at the end of last episode that we got a little bit of Thorkel and more importantly Leif. We haven't seen him in a while and it's nice to know that he's still as motivated as ever to find Thorfinn.
And emotional.
Yeah.
He's emotionally damaged.
Understandably.
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Flashback? Is this Askeladd? This is... Okay, we're not looking. We're not looking. It's a new intro. I'm so excited. We're not looking, okay? That was Askeladd carrying his mom, right? Assuming that he was returning to Wales because that's where she was from. That's what I'm going to go for.
And that looked like a younger version of Gratianus.
Yes, it did. It's something in the eyes. Okay, I want to listen to the song. This is a good way to catch up, huh?
The details of like the warts on his face or, you know,
the veins on his hand.
I thought that was hair.
He kind of has similar hair to his mother, right?
It's a lot of people.
That's fair.
I love that they can't understand each other.
Not a good look.
I wonder if Canute can understand.
The king of the devils must still love his child.
He wants to see you act like beasts.
Huh.
Look at his face.
Oh my god. Say something spirited.
What is he doing?
Has to be him. Unnecessary fighting. Ragnar really does care about him.
But I'm also annoyed by Ragnar. So this was maybe just a test for Canute, like he always...
Interesting shot.
Mm-hmm. Askeladd's giving him good opportunities too.
Dude, this episode feels like so different in a way. It feels so like magnified in intensity.
I wonder if it's supposed to reflect Askeladd's childhood at all, with getting that at the beginning.
Yeah.
The energy's shifted.
Joining us in the war.
I'm still on edge.
Whoa,
He keeps his
Bjorn
cards
didn't know.
close.
God, I'm so invested right now.
Yeah, shut up.
Oh, shit. Explains his armor a little bit, doesn't it?
That's why he uses his mother's name sometimes.
Oh. Artorias, yeah. God, I wish I was more confident with my history.
Brought peace.
Holy shit. Oh, what a shot. God, I'm so much more curious what he thinks of Thorfinn right now. You know?
Because they trust him. It's good they can't understand each other.
Talk.
Talk.
Talk to each other.
Princess.
Cautious. My words have political repercussions. Ragnar's like, what?
Has he ever been around someone his age?
Good question.
Being
Wow.
around someone his age could have totally been a great device.
I don't know, man. Something about this episode. Maybe it's just me, but there's so many underlying emotions. Do you think that Canute is still sickly?
Maybe. Did the snow change his mind about something?
The world's just opening up, man. Is this the same band? Okay, that was Vinland Saga, Season 1, Episode 13. I am a little bit at a loss, man. Since Episode 1, I've really enjoyed the show, of course, but I don't know. This episode feels a bit different to me, and in the best way possible. I feel a little... I feel like we have been setting up such a strong foundation for a moment like this to really pull the trigger on and really like zone in on and magnify in on. And I'm just so intrigued. I'm so invested.
Mm-hmm. I am just so curious with what's happening. What went into the writing of, I would say, even from Ragnarok, that episode with Askeladd where things almost like feel like they're shifting. We almost feel like we're getting more of an inside look of this character to now, to really being told, hey, this character really might actually be totally different from what you have perceived them as this whole time, but also could be playing still with this person that he's talking to in this episode. That this imbalance of like, I don't truly understand Askeladd, I'm searching for those answers. And in this episode in particular, I wanted to talk about the title.
Child of a Hero.
Yes. I am shocked, or at first was shocked, and I'm starting to understand a little bit why the title didn't reflect to me what I, coming out of the episode, felt like were the key moments or themes or people of interest. Like Canute's ending there was pretty strong and pretty, I would say, integral and pretty big, to the fact that even all the characters are turning like, oh my god, he just talked. But also like Askeladd, us opening this box almost of like, there's more here to unpack. Bjorn doesn't even necessarily know everything about him. He's a mystery to him. The line of I hate the Danes.
Yeah.
there's a lot there. And so I expected, upon coming out of the episode, to see a title that reflected either of those two, what I perceived were the big moments. And I find it really interesting that it's Child of a Hero, which is, to me, undoubtedly talking about Thorfinn, because I don't think Askeladd would consider his father a hero, unless we're talking about his mother as a hero, which could be the case, a hero to him.
I mean, initially, like right when we started the episode, I assumed after like connecting the dots of it being Askeladd that we were shown that it was referring to him because we got the title drop at the like start of the episode, right? So I was like, oh, what is Askeladd's mother like truthfully like, you know?
Mm-hmm. But I want to take it in a possible different direction of
Mm-hmm.
what it could be. It could be talking about two things. It could be talking about Askeladd, and it could be talking about Thorfinn on an emotional level for Askeladd. So I like scribbled down some stuff really quick, and it was like thoughts of Thor's last episode, do not fall for a man. Maybe Thor's was the first Dane that Askeladd thought resembled this ancestor Artorius.
Mm.
The non-aggression. If protecting whales is his goal, it would make sense that killing Thor's was a waste to his cause, but then again, Thor's wouldn't have fought anyway. Does he keep Thorfinn around because of Thor's, not because of like that legendary bloodline strong man, but because he might have a similar heart to Thor's? But also would be willing to get his hands dirty in order for like a cause he really believes in.
Yeah.
He could have almost the best of what Askeladd would want. Something from Thor's that Askeladd seemed to really admire and think really highly of, but also what Askeladd seems to be doing himself, which is acting for his own and willing to get his hands dirty for his own desires and motivations that might actually have a very soft spot in his heart.
I think that the comparison of to Thorfinn in regards to Askeladd isn't something that we can necessarily hammer down right now, but I do think it's interesting. Because like symbolically, even after this episode, and then when I think back to Askeladd looking back on his ship and seeing that look in Thorfinn's eye. Obviously, Askeladd didn't necessarily have that same look at the beginning of this episode in the flashback, but the idea of Askeladd physically carrying the weight of his mother onto shore to her homeland to give her that, compared and paired with Thorfinn carrying that weight of Thor's death and wanting to avenge him on his back, is something that it's an interesting note, you know?
And he's also, Askeladd's not only possibly seeing possible parallels, comparisons with Thorfinn, maybe seeing his childhood self in Thorfinn a little bit, or maybe seeing something he admires in what Thorfinn could be. But we also know that he put Thorfinn in a very specific spot as the person that is guarding Canute.
Yeah.
Not only for the device of they're the same age, is Askeladd doing this in order to bring something out of Canute that he's wanting to see, and he thinks that, is he like big brain strategic, like, ooh, maybe being around someone the same age will bring something out of Canute that no one else can bring out?
Well, who does Askeladd hate? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And who is right in front of Askeladd telling him that he hates Askeladd and his gang? Like, I mean, you could potentially look at it like, oh, Askeladd and Thorfinn kind of have the same enemy if you get rid of Askeladd from the picture, right? If you just include Bjorn and all the other men, all the other Danes.
It's so complex, though, because, I mean, Askeladd, we commented from the beginning, like, oh, him and Bjorn seem like they have a good friendship, good back and forth, and it never really seemed like Askeladd had no care for the men he was leading, so I feel like it's definitely complex.
So, yeah, I would like to take a second and go back a little bit.
Okay.
I think that the writing in this show is showing to be, like, unique. I was going to say something like next level or different or, like, superb, right? But, and those all fit it, for sure. But I think that the approach is so special to me and stands out to me, and it's creating its own little island in my head of like different pieces of media, because like to build a world where you're able to travel throughout Thorfinn, but you question whether or not Thorfinn's the main character so many times. And what I mean by that isn't necessarily as literally as I said it, but to go from episode 1 and to episode, what, 4 or 5, when you have a character as heavy as Thor's and as prominent as Thor's, and on screen majority of the time, so many moments with him and his huge oar, rowing the boat, like
His impact.
so much impact and so much focus on him. And then after Thor's is gone, it switches a bit to the person who helped take him down being Askeladd. But during that switch, they lean on a character that's as strong as Thorfinn because they've already established him as a main character, the main character, but they're using him to to jump around a little bit, and to such a amazing degree that I'm kind of dumbfounded. And we had a little break between the reaction and discussion, but we were busy the whole time, and I haven't really had time to try to think it out, so pardon me. But I think it's just so compelling that we're getting such language that's been sprinkled on to the story since episode 1. I think it was episode 4 when Askeladd agreed to the duel with Thor's. And to think back at that, I'm almost certain that Askeladd, while accepting that duel, was saying, "I, Askeladd, son of Olaf."
Mm-hmm.
And then last episode when we had Askeladd, son of Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
And then this episode, the reiteration of son of Lydia. And going back only, 13 episodes, and seeing how Askeladd's, if we're imagining what information we have now, what kind of character we think he is now, and trying to go back then and think about the decisions and language and why he was using what he was using, sure, accepting the duel in that type of way, so he's going to reference his father since he was from there. But the multi-layered way of thinking that I'm trying to understand Askeladd's going through, it's just so fascinating to me. He's such an interesting character. Every episode has gotten better and better and better, and there hasn't been a lull, there hasn't been a pause. It's just getting better.
I would say that it definitely is at this uptick right now. It's definitely gone to this point where I was interested and I was entertained, but I've gotten more, and Thor's definitely helped with investing me early on in the series and into Thorfinn as the main character. Thor's was a big help in investing you into this child who doesn't really understand the world yet, or who he is, or the words of his father. And so Thor's then helps us invest into this child so that we then watch their journey. And since then, I would say that this current thing that's happening in the last 3-4 episodes, with the focus so big on trying to unpack and actually try to understand Askeladd, whether with Thorfinn as somewhat of a device or the idea of Thor's as a device to understanding Askeladd, I think that it's even more I'm getting even more intrigued and invested now.
I am so curious. It's interesting. 13 episodes in, and I feel like I have my entire heart in the hands of the writing. I trust them so much only 13 episodes in, because I just thought for a second interesting choice that Thorfinn wasn't around when of course, literal, in a literal sense, I understand why Thorfinn wasn't around when Askeladd was talking about his mother, right? Mm-hmm. I get that, on the face value, but it's such an interesting choice to have Thorfinn not be privy to that knowledge yet, or maybe ever. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what the choice there is. Yeah. And
as a writer, you're choosing who's in the room, what's the content that's being said, all of those things.
I almost wonder if part of the reason that Thorfinn was used to protect Canute, so early on, was to give granted, Askeladd could have gone off and done whatever the fuck he wanted whenever, but a legitimate reason and purpose, protecting Canute, only solidifies that distance that was temporarily there to I don't know. I'm so compelled to see what is going to happen between Thorfinn and Askeladd in the future, and more specifically Askeladd, because he's just such a great character, man. And also, speaking of great characters, the mangaka, the author, the writer, the director, whoever is making and writing this show is really, really trying and really, really succeeding in trying to make me fall in love with Canute. Like, he is like, what's the term? Like, he's like a tsundere. Like, to Thorfinn. Like, he's like, no! Like he's like...
They so far at the all we've had really for their dynamic was what we got at the very end that kind of solidifies what their future dynamic is probably going to be like, because I doubt that, oh, next episode, nope, Canute doesn't talk to Thorfinn anymore, like he's back to being quiet. Like, no, I think this was like the breaking point where Canute is now going to speak more freely and more comfortably, and obviously in that antagonizing way back and forth, at each other.
I think that it's probably just because I'm stupid, but my expectations are so like askew that I almost have none by the way that they've set me up as an audience member, that I'm just kind of like, I don't have any guesses. I'm just here to enjoy the story and how it plays out to the point where when Canute talked this episode and said what he had to say about not being a coward and he has to be cautious. If you told me that that's the character he was 5 episodes ago in hindsight, sure, I could be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I could see that coming. But to be transparent with you, I had no fucking clue what he was going to be like. And the fact that he is this way and thinking these things, I am sold 100%, and I love it. I love everybody's reaction to it. It
made a lot of sense to me that Canute was like brought something up that I hadn't even like considered or thought about. Was like, why are you guys trying to make me make all these big decisions when my dad's still the king?
Yeah.
Like, I can't enter into a non-aggression agreement without my father's approval. And I was like, oh shoot, I didn't even remember that, like, he was given one task, which was to defeat Thorkel's army. And then now his other task is to survive and get home. But he wasn't given any other, like, power or privilege from the king. Like, yes, you may speak in my name and, like, do other things other than show your military prowess.
Dude, I just had this thought. Episode 8. Do you remember what Askeladd was saying to Hordaland? The feudal lord of the daughter of the feudal lord? Like, do you not think that all he was thinking about was his mom when looking at her and how she was treated there?
It makes a lot of sense now.
Like,
and
holy
she looked similar
shit.
in terms of, like, the light blonde hair.
Oh my god. And then her having that conversation with Thorfinn in hindsight, and to try to compare and contrast what Askeladd is now and what Thorfinn might be in the future. Mm-hmm. Holy shit, dude.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I feel like that gives like so much more like power and evidence to this idea that not only is Thor's so big of a character. Thor's is a main character, even though he died early in the series.
Yeah.
He's a big character and a big impact on Askeladd, and he's a big impact on Thorfinn, and he is a reason for their relationship to be what it is and what it could be, in a place of comparison and understanding, and the idea that these two might actually be very similar underneath, or be able to understand the same like core values or hold the same values.
I think that, like, going back to the line that everyone is a slave to something, right? I feel like it might be, like, there's a way to look at a situation that it's so superficial and unnecessary to determine which specific side and belief and religion that you follow without breaking it down to the actual core of what that is. Because when you're thinking everyone is a slave to something, and there are so many differences in the situation that Askeladd was in compared to the situation that Thorfinn is in, but the idea of being tied to something, like Askeladd being tied to the memory of his mother and what happened to her and she was an unlucky person. Mm-hmm. Like, and carrying that weight with him. We
describe him as incredibly lucky. And I think a character even called him lucky in this episode.
To, like, to this day, in playing out in front of us, he is living out his life, and he, like, based off of that history that made him as a child. And I think that the same thing is always going to be the case for Thorfinn. I think that, like, he's always going to be partially, or at least now, like a slave to the idea of the pain that's inside of him, and feeling like he needs to avenge Thor's. And it's like, it's just, I feel like I'm reaching, but I feel like I'm happy I am, and I feel like I'm supposed to be, and I'm compelled to be, and like I'm just in awe, man. I cannot stop singing the praises of this episode, because not only was the writing top notch, the music was incredible. The new intro and outro were phenomenal. The score in the episode was like movie like. I don't know, man.
Well, we don't know what was in the contents of it, but the music was great.
That is, next time we listen, I guess, to the opening and outro, we should try to like really pay attention to what we're hearing, because we don't know if we're gonna be able to watch it. But I don't know. I'd say that after season 1, part of me wishes I didn't watch the intro, because more than most shows that we watch.
Would you call that season 1? Would you call that season 1?
Oh, sorry. I guess part 1, season 1, or first intro, right? I'd say that part of me, like, some animes, I feel like, okay, well, it's an obvious, like, through point, you know, it's not, like, the most spoilery thing. But because of how blind I am to everything else in the show, I don't think I want any type of lead or hint or direction.
I don't want any more evidence other than in the show content to try to help me understand or unpack Askeladd. I don't want any help other than what is like written in the narrative. Because I feel like it's being delivered in such a like slow, little mysterious way that I am really appreciating it, because each thing I get is either conflicting with a previous notion I had in my head of what he might believe, or what his motivations might be. It might contradict that, or it might actually send me in a slightly different but related direction. And I would like to just continue slowly getting those things whenever they would like to be given to me.
You know what's a really, like, in my mind, is something really admirable that they've managed to do? In this episode alone, we were shown how somebody's lineage and being a descendant of somebody has a lot of power and meaning behind it. Throughout this entire show so far, we've been shown almost supernatural physical strength by characters like Thor's jumping like far in between ships, or Thorkel like doing the craziest shit.
Like giant logs.
But you know what though? Like even with all of that, especially with all of that, I still feel like every single character is as human as another. Like you're just, that's the reality that we're in, right?
I don't want to know who a person is immediately. I mean, I feel like you don't even know a real person after having, if you met them 13 times, 20 minutes each, I don't think you'd know them completely either. Like,
that's true.
So I don't want that for the show. I want it to the extent where I feel like I can start to theorize about them, or I can start to feel like I understand them, but there's still that room there to subvert my expectations, get me excited, show me that there's more complexity there, and there's more there to unpack and discover, and make it feel like a real person. Because, you know, a lot of people have lived a lot of years and had a lot of things happen to them that informs who they are and what choices they make.
God, man, I cannot, and it's also kind of uncanny how much Askeladd, like, of course, resembles his older self as he's young, but the way that it, like, the actual execution of it is so intriguing, man. It's all like the eyes and eyebrows. You know what it is?
The eyebrows.
They weren't drawn. Like, it doesn't feel like they were drawn as a younger version of Askeladd. It feels like somebody put Askeladd into a de-aging software, and, like, they just, like, picked up his face. You know what I mean?
Just rounded it out a little bit, made it a little softer.
Man, I'm in love with the show right now. I feel like I'm annoying, and I'm sorry, but I'm just, like, so, like, God, this episode is great.
I'm excited for Canute going forward.
Me too.
Ragnar, for some reason that I can't put my finger on, makes me grumpy.
I had more. I am not on that boat anymore. Ragnar, this like I could
Not
see how
because
much
I
he
think
truly
he's
cared about
bad,
Canute.
right, and not because of anything negative about him being like he's not a bad person. His care for Canute is obvious, but I think I was getting more annoyed with how he speaks and treats other people.
Mm.
In this place where he sounds so uppity and like you should be doing what as if he's like ordering around, and I'm like, you're not really in a position to be doing that right now. uh
I mean, in
you're
his
being
mind, he is
you're being
right.
protected by these people. There's a leader that's in charge of these people that is protecting you, and I feel like he's crossing some lines with how
But
he's talking
if
to them without
if
being respectful.
if you cross those, if you don't cross those lines, right, and you are just immediately respectful, you have to think about what the other side is going to be thinking of you. Somebody who's supposed to be royalty, somebody who's supposed to claim that they have power and claim that they are a part of a hierarchy, or a part of like a ruler's inner circle, that they speak authority. Like
Mhm.
I get where you're coming
I
from
guess
with
it's
that.
because we're in a warlike setting, and because he's being taken care of and being given these opportunities to actually keep Canute out of a fight.
Yeah,
I feel like he should be a
a little more
lot a
grateful
little,
and
and
stuff.
I don't
Yeah,
even
I
know if
get. I
grateful's it, but a little more reserved with the things that he says. I think he like is going a little too like he could be showing his power or status, or remember that I am higher in the hierarchy than you. He can do that without the way about he's going, and how many things he's having issue with, I
like
guess.
part of me 100% agrees with you, and part of me is like, fuck, I would not want to be in that man's position right
No,
now.
definitely
Like,
not. I'm not even obviously I really want to take it home. Like, I am not grumpy with him or disliking him
yeah,
because I don't understand why he's doing what he's doing, or I don't like him. He's just agitating me slightly because I'm like, dude, they're protecting you and they're protecting the prince. You choose your battles.
yeah.
You are in war.
Yeah, you're right.
And is it good for Canute right now for you to be constantly disagreeing with the people that are protecting Canute, or constantly trying to show them that you are still in charge, or that Canute is still in charge? Is that good for him? Is that safe for him? Is that breeding a good understanding and safe environment that you seem to really want for him?
Yeah. I
An environment where he's not going to be pushed in front to speak. You're trying to breed that, but then you're almost like doing the opposite of it.
I think this is a pretty good segue to what we heard from the king earlier this episode, though. Like, we have not heard much, and it caught me a bit off guard hearing him say something like, he's my dear son, like, where is he? And like, not because I'm surprised that he'd feel that way, but just like from like a writing point of view, it's interesting that now's the choice that we're getting to hear it.
Mhm.
Also, hair or veins,
It was
I
both.
I think that it's hair. Like, I was thinking that the
See,
blue.
but there is big veins.
Yes.
So was that not what you were talking about?
No.
When you said okay, well,
so
some veins are very blue.
exactly, because I didn't see the lines coming off of the hand, so I wasn't sure. And I was trying to match the color with his beard too.
He's reminding me like he's in the Game of Thrones universe, even though I haven't seen Game of Thrones, but I've seen House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
He reminds me of that because there's like this discoloration on the face that reminds me of things that were happening to wounds in those shows, and also he has this uncomfortable energy of I cannot relate to you.
Mm.
And I also don't know how you actually feel about your son. And to me, he's my dear son sounds a little bit empty, to be honest.
Well, I think it was really interesting what we were getting from Ragnar's point of view of Canute, right, and what he's been through and what he's seen in front of him. And with all of that coupled, if true, which I believe it, all of that coupled with Canute's outlook of wanting to not be a coward and he has to be cautious, I think that that's like points in Canute's book for me, dude. Everything about Canute this episode, I'm like, I love you. You're so cute.
He's just acting based on the environment that he grew up in. Like, he was obviously not able to just, like, freely speak without thinking about consequences of his words. Like he
Yeah.
was not in a safe environment to just unapologetically be walking around saying things. Like he definitely needed to think about his words. He needed to think about the battles he was going to pick. Like things he needed to be very strategic and very precise with the things that he did in order to survive in that environment where people seemed to possibly be very ready to go toward, I guess what Askeladd would say is an aggressive territory.
Yeah. I'm so excited for next episode. I don't want to wait.
I just
Grr.
was it the Askeladd and Thorfinn conversation on the hill in Ragnarok that is during the duel that was happening between those two drunk guys?
Yeah.
Hmm.
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 Is that all? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.